gorgeous teapot. And they say they want to have that teapot. So they go into the store and they pick up the teapot and they start examining it. And the teapot speaks to them. And the teapot says to them, what you see now isn't what I always was. That I had to go through the battering of somebody forming me into what I am, of taking the heat, of being in the oven. And just when I thought that I couldn't take anymore, I was taken out of the oven. Then I was painted and I was put back in the oven. And I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on? I don't know if I could take this anymore. But when I came out of the oven and I looked at the finished product, I knew this was what I had to experience in order to be what I am right now or who I am, this gorgeous teapot. So I had to take the heat. I had to be battered. I had to be pushed around. I had to face these challenges. And just when I thought I couldn't take any more, I got the strength to go a little further because I wanted to see what was on the other side. And now look at me. I'm this gorgeous teapot that is gives other people joy into their lives also. So I thought that was a really beautiful story about taking responsibility for ourselves and self-empowerment.
That is an excellent and analogy. I really, really love that. It's the firing process. I remember in high school doing pottery and having to have the pottery go into the kiln, I believe it is, and it getting fired up. And it is two processes because you have to one, you have to put it in it so that it's hard to just like you said, you have to paint it and then you have to put it back in so that it has that shiny finish to the paint. So just understanding that process and knowing that even scripturally, you know, I'm crazy for the Lord. So scripturally, it says we go through the fire. We go through the fire so that we come out as what pure gold, the word of God says. And so that is always, we're always going to be pressed. And that's why it's so important for us to for the self-awareness is become conscious. What talked about in our past interviews, Teresa, coming into that place of consciousness, awakeness, so that we are aware that we're just not existing, but we're being proactive in this journey called life, and that we're showing up in a place. And I want to now move over to Dr. Reed, and I want her to tell us about how what's going on with her and how she's taking people to unclock themselves. And so share with our audience where you are at with this development, self mastery thing. And we're not talking about being perfect. We're talking about being more conscious, more strategic, and intentional about navigating through this life so that you start getting results that you really want that are in alignment with what you see your life as being fulfilling. And so, Dr. Reed.
Well, Teresa, thank you so much for setting this up so eloquently. And Marissa, thank you for having me. You know, the P alliteration is my thing. And so moving from people from panic to empowerment is how I spread the message about self-awareness, because eventually self-awareness leads to self-mastery, right? You go to self-awareness, self-discovery, and then self-mastery. And for that reason, I'm going to be dropping my new book, From Panic to Empowerment, Thrive Beyond 40, for women in that age bracket and how they can discover their purpose for holistic wellness, spirit, mind, and body. And that's what I believe that Teresa was referring to. We have to connect and be on our own journey and connect it from an internal perspective where you're acknowledging that you have a spirit, you have emotions, you have processes, you have belief systems, and in order for you to move and shift into a new reality, you have to assess all those pieces of yourself and see if they align. And here's my catchphrase: I teach my clients to align with the highest version of themselves that holds the person their purpose. And what's in that person on the other side of alignment is all of the wisdom that you accumulated over the years that now it's time for you to reflect on, for you to pull out the wisdom and leave the pain. And as you do that, your journey actually does become your own, because you can see there are a lot of similarities in other people's lives, but you can say, but for me, this is how it works. For my experience, this is how I'm able to make sense of my world. And when I make sense of it, I am aligned with the highest version of myself. And I can move on into the sunset and have this fabulous life, right? I believe that women over 50 deserve have the best life ever. Okay, I'm over 40, so I'm being biased, but here's the truth. We've given the first half of our lives to everybody else, right? The second half, you must grab all of the rest of your resources, live you unapologetically and without guilt, because that's the only way you're going to have a filled life on this journey of self discovery leading to self mastery. Because why did God give us breath? Like, what are we here for? Because once you get to that level of self mastery, then you can kind of flow into what your purpose is, right? I know all of us on the panel we didn't say, oh, I know my purpose is going to be a holistic heart specialist, or I know my purpose is going to be, a publisher. No, we evolved into these pieces of ourselves. We evolved because we embraced the things that started to work and click, that alignment. And we started giving ourselves permission to throw the stuff away that didn't work. And then we stopped listening to other people's opinions about what should work and shouldn't work for us. Because I know, Teresa, you'll probably say this, when you listen to other people, it gives you heart palpitations, right? Especially when it doesn't sound right with what your spirit is telling you, right? Your spirit is telling you one thing, and you have somebody in your ear, saying what they want to say, and you're anxious and you're upset because you don't know which way to go. But I'm here to tell you, women over 40 rediscovering themselves from empowerment. In my new book, I teach you how to unclock yourself, and the unclocking says, when you listen to the still small voice within you, it is never wrong. And because of that, you can expect better health, especially better heart health, right? You're not on this crazy roller coaster ride. Should I listen to this? Should I listen to that? Should I listen? No, just listen to yourself and be confident that you know the right path for you, but you have to shut out the clatter, shut out the noise, and be still sometimes. Be still and know, right? From that perspective, self-discovery, self-mastery, self-healing, anything self is so at your fingertips. It's right there. Just grab it. But here's the thing, you probably need to connect with a professional to help you, like Teresa. She can help you with the heart stuff. But if you need a coach or a naturopathic practitioner to help you spirit, mind, and body, reach out to me, because you can't do this by yourself. You hear us talking, it sounds really good, and you think you can do it by yourself, but you're only wasting time when you try. And so you might as well just hop on and get some support, because no man is an island. We all need each other. I have a few mentors that I lean on and say, help, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. That doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing in my life. It just means I don't know what I'm doing in this particular area. And if you're on this platform listening to us, then you might need some support in this particular area. Doesn't mean that you're not an expert, like Teresa said, in your own right. So I give the floor back to the beautiful Marissa.
That is so good. I always say that we're always evolving. So the self-discovery part is a non-stopping part. Even the self-mastery part is non-stopping. And the self-awareness is all continual, because as long as you have breath, you have the ability, if you're open-minded enough, you have the ability to discover something new and incredible about yourself. And so and you don't limit yourself. And I conversation a couple of days ago in regards to having an open-mindedness, and how it gives you a broadened perspective and different options that you have, and it gives you a better quality of life, right? Because you do have options. You don't have to be stagnated. It's highly recommended that you're not narrow-minded. Right? You got to explore. I remember it's just as simple as this. Is I remember many years ago, my cousin said, okay, Marty, we're gonna go, and I want you to try sushi. And I had eaten sushi, but the California roll, and all of that stuff that is just it's fresh, it's not raw. And he was like, no, we're crossing you over to true sushi. And thankful, because as a result of that, I have now been able to enjoy and know the difference between fresh sushi and sushi. This has been sitting here. You can tell the difference. And really enjoy that part of my life, and being able to share even with my daughters
Mm.
that this is something that they can explore as well. Eating with chopsticks. I can't eat Thai or Chinese food with a fork. I haven't done that
Right.
in at least a good 30 years. I have not eaten, with a fork. It just doesn't taste the same. These are things that you can begin to really enjoy life. Roller coasters. Now I have a limit of what I will do, but roller coasters, getting on a roller coaster and screaming eliminates so much stress. You have no idea, to be able to get on that roller coaster, or even the tilt-a-whirl where you're going around and you can
Oh,
just
no,
scream.
no.
That gets rid of so much. And that's the little girl in me. The little girl in me shows up for moments like that. So it creates a balance where I'm not overly serious, but I can be playful. It shows up in romance for me. That little young woman shows up in romance, because sometimes we get so highly professional that we're no fun and earthly good.
Yeah.
We're always rigid, and we're always on, and we're always the expert. And you got to leave that at the door sometimes. And
Yeah.
I do, like I said, I do cartwheels. I can't do the back walkovers or the front walkovers at this because Dr. Reed said I may be able to add back to that flexibility in my back at some point. But I
Yeah.
still do the cartwheel because that doesn't require me to be flexible. It just requires me to be able to have inertia, right? Roll over,
Right.
go up and down. So I still do that. And then on trampolines, do the high flying Dutchmans and things like that. Because when we are open minded, and we don't get narrow minded, we really have access to the treasures of life. That
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
rid of that stress and to rebalance ourselves and bring us back into a healthy place. And so, what I want to charge you guys with, oh, here's Nathaniel. So before we switch over, and I do want to switch over, I want to talk to our younger generation. So we talk about where we're able to, when we talk about being able to to evolve. And Dr. Reed, you talked about being able to, we've given our lives over, half our lives over to others. How do we speak to an up and coming generation? How do we not really set the tone for what is going to be for them, because we really don't know. But how do we
No.
give them some kind of nudge to say, be on the lookout for this? Be self-aware of internal influences as well as external influences. How do we give them a charge to say, be
Mhm.
watchful of this, so that you don't give too much away, or that you don't give too much ear to someone else, like you said, where you have someone speaking in you and it's in conflict with what's going on in your inner or your intuition. Um, how do they have that trained or start beginning to train themselves in an earlier stage of life, um, to be watchful of these different things? I'm going to start, and we have a limited amount of time, so I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes. Watch the clock for yourself. I'll give you about 3 minutes to just respond and say to the younger generation. And it doesn't mean that this is the young. I mean to the 20 or to the 30-year-old who just may happen to catch our interview. How do you speak to them and say, this is what you need to be on the lookout? Because when you're on this side and you start thinking about woulda, shoulda, coulda, I want you to just kind of, if you can eliminate, or lessen the probability of, speak to them. I'll let you go, Dr. Reed, first, and then we'll go to Teresa, and then Nathaniel. If you got everything I just said, we'll digress to you. Dr. Reed.
I love this topic because my children are that age. My children are 36, 35, and 30. And so we actually had a conversation uh, earlier this week about the nuances of the things that we take for granted. And this, I'm sure that Nathan can speak to this more eloquently, but I was teaching my daughter and my son-in-law about the importance of what goes into an escrow, right? What's in the escrow account? It's not just the mortgage, it's the homeowner's insurance, it's the taxes, and all those things have to be figured into the cost of a mortgage. And so I brought that up because I noticed that young people see the broader picture of things. They say, I want to be rich, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be healthy, I want to be this, but they don't have the parts of it that makes that big pie. And I would say that when you are a younger person, 30s and 40s, and you have these big ideas of how you want to move forward, spirit, mind, and body, start looking at the things that make up the big thing. So if you want a home, look into all the aspects of what it requires to have a home. The escrow, whether you're going to choose a home that has landscaping, are you going to factor in the cost of a landscaper or a tree cutter or somebody to cut the grass when you can't? These are the things that are important. If you really want to be healthy, and that's my wheelhouse of experience, then you have to start considering that, wait a minute, my body is like any other body and I have to take care of it even though I'm younger, because I don't know when my behavior is going to have a deleterious effect on me. And at 36, I can have a heart attack, right? At 42, I can have a stroke. So we need to look at the little pieces of what goes into life instead of only looking at the bigger picture. Because I think as we got older, that's what we start to focus on and realize we hadn't focused on it as a kid, right? I want to be healthy. I want to eat good. I want to be but I'm still eating pizza. But it has broccoli on it. Well, but what about the gluten in the pizza, right? So it's the little things. I think the little things add up to be big things, and big things add up to the things that we're not prepared to handle. And so that will be my advice to the younger people.
That's excellent, excellent, excellent. Marissa, you're up.
Okay, I think my advice to younger people is everything starts from within. And by that, I mean your inner knowing, your inner self, developing your intuition, listening to that voice in your heart. And I truly believe that everything starts in the heart because the heart gives and sustains life. And even babies, animals, before they're born, they're all connected to a heartbeat. It's their mother's heartbeat that they're connected to. So that heartbeat becomes important to us. Our heart becomes important to us. And unfortunately, we don't look at things until it becomes a problem. So if you're 20 years old, you're not looking at heart disease, you're not looking at these things, but you're also not looking at what is right with the heart. And I've said this many times, in medicine, we seem to dwell on the illness and the disease rather than what is right with things. So as young people, I would tell them to really start honing in on the voice of their heart, to sit quietly, to place their hand over their heart, to get familiar with their heartbeat, to make that connection physically, then emotionally, by bringing their emotions into their heart and sitting with those emotions rather than being reactive. Be proactive, sit with the emotion, and spiritually, that inner knowing. We're all connected to something higher than we are. And it doesn't matter what you believe that something or someone is. What matters is that there is a power higher than us in this vast universe, and we can't do everything alone. And once we could tap into our inner voice, we're in our heart, we're tapping into that higher power. And then we have a guide as to where we'll be leaded. So I think that's the important thing. Diet, exercise, sleep, all those things are important. But at the same time, you have to start with yourself. Everything starts within. So if you're not taking care of your inner self, being who you are, listening to that voice in your heart, being quiet, a couple times a day, even if it's for 5 minutes, and really tuning into yourself and tuning into your body. Those other things you're doing on the outside aren't going to work as well because now you're taking your body out of balance and you're relying on something outside of you to do the work rather than inside of you. We all have to do that inner work, and that's the hardest part, whether it be your finances, weight loss, anything. It all starts with you. It all starts with taking the responsibility for it, whatever it is, and then working on your inner self to improve yourself, to then be guided and use what's outside of you then as an addition and a supplement to help guide you along. So that's what I would say.
That's excellent. And you know what I think about too, and I think about myself. It's like I learned many years ago that what's very, very important is to not start my day in a rush. And so
Mm,
sometimes when we have children, we have household, or even when we're young, because I had my children young. So in my 20s, I had children. So for me, it wasn't until later on that I said, it is so important for me to start off my day in calm, not to
mhm,
start off my day all over the place. And I'm a
mhm,
nicer person. I'm a nicer person when I've had my morning me time. Guess what? I always wanted to wake up early. So now today, I've been waking up early for many, many years now. And it makes a difference on how I start out my day and how I show up throughout my day. I have to sit and have a cup of coffee and watch the news. It's a must in the morning. It's a must for me because it calms me into my day. And then it's early, so there's no lights, it's dark outside, it's still dark outside, and da 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 da. So
mhm,
I
mhm,
get into my work environment, or back in the day when I went into the office, I can handle crises. Why? Because I'm a wait. And so that is one of the things I charge young people to do is don't look at it like, oh, it's a routine. No, it's intentional. What do you need to do first thing in order for you to set the course of your day? That's something really, and you may not know that right away. It doesn't matter. But because you're now conscious of a need to address that, start figuring it out. Start looking for ways that resonate with you and feel the most authentic and organic to you. And figure out what is most important for you. I have to have a nice space. In order for me to function, I have to have order. Everything around me has to look nice. It has to be clean. It has to be orderly. That's critically important for me, and it de-stresses me, and it helps me in how I respond when you're in my environment. If it's chaotic, it's a mess. I don't like that. So
mhm,
I like
mhm,
everything to be nice, neat, and orderly. It's not perfect. Whenever I speak about getting your house in order, it's not about perfect because life happens. It does get messy in my space, but I do understand the importance of making it a priority for me. The minute I have a second to regroup is to get my house back in order. Because my house back in order, that is the foundation on how I'm going to respond externally to what's going on internally.
Teresa.
Nathaniel, yes.
Yes. I'm sorry, my internet cut out for a second there. Can you tell me what the question was?
Yeah, I think it went out for all of us. I know it went out for me as well. So, what advice or what can you give as a nugget or a nudge to the up and coming generation, the 20s, 30 years old, 30-year olds, as it pertains to heart these days, as something that they should be conscious of and aware of, as to not, when they're later on in life, look back and say, I wish I would have, could have, should have, but I didn't. What's your advice?
Without repeating, because I think that you and Teresa and Dr. Reed covered it, and there's always a lot of other advice and guidance that can be given, but sticking with the subject of responsibility, and I would add to that responsibility and discernment. So, from the first segment where you talked about responsibility, my advice would be to understand that you are ultimately always responsible for your life. Even though you may take advice and guidance from others, you have to live with the consequences. So remember, if there's troubles in your life, it's because you weren't responsible and you let someone else take control of your life. You have to be responsible. You have to choose who you listen to, who you don't listen to. And that's where the discernment come in. You got to start making those decisions of who to listen to, who to take guidance and advice from. And it's better that you learn it at an earlier age than to learn it later in life. But the key is to get it. If you can get responsibility and discernment, I think you'll be well on your way.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's so important for you to be able to navigate and start looking into who is. I always say you are the CEO of your life. Who's in your boardroom? Who's your board advising you? And so that's very, very important. This has been an excellent show. I'm going to charge you. I know, Nathaniel, you've been in and out. You're in Thailand. You're coming to us it truly internationally from Thailand. But give any thoughts that you may have in general. I'm going to let you close us out. Give any thoughts, because that's what I said to the ladies at the top of the show, is what's on your heart these days. What's really resonating with your heart and self development, self mastery.
Um, don't believe the hype. There is so much stuff that is sold to people, to all of us. And you have to navigate through that to figure out what's real and what's not real. And when you start to peel back the layers of the onion, you find out that most of it's not real. Um, so it's been weighing on me, the amount of lies that our society puts on us and that we put on each other. So we need to look for the truth, and we have to get back to critical thinking. Just because someone says something does not mean it's a fact. And just because it's repeated over and over doesn't mean it's a fact. When a question is asked and a question is answered, you need to ask four, five, six other questions as follow up to those questions or to those answers that you got in order to find out what's real and what's not. So that's what's on my heart today, is to just find out the truth, find out what's real.
Yeah. Ladies, you have 1 minute. Could you give me your closing thoughts? Teresa?
Okay, very quickly, my closing thought. I agree with Nathaniel about the hype. Don't believe everything that you hear and see. And again, turn to yourself. Listen to that voice. Be quiet and listen to the voice in your heart, because that's your inner knowing. We all have intuition. It's just a matter of recognizing it and developing it. It's been there since before you were born. So get busy with your intuition, learn discernment, and don't believe everything that you see and hear. Take it inside of you and decide from there what resonates and what is right for you.
Dr. Reed?
Okay, for the sake of not being redundant, I would also add, to thine own self be true. Women over 40, you have visions and dreams and aspirations. This is your time to be true to yourself. Set those boundaries, say no and say yes to yourself. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with you for the rest of your life, for the rest of your breath. You might as well enjoy the second half of it on your terms, unapologetically and without guilt. So be true to yourself, follow your dreams, and it's never too late to do that. Just start today to say, I'm going to finally put myself on the list that I've never been on to prioritize prioritize yourself first, because after that, everybody else is going to get what they deserve, not always what they need from you, because what they need from you is not what always you're giving yourself away. People don't need all that. You need you more than other people need you, and you just need to realize that. Prioritize yourself and don't believe the hype.
Yeah, that's it. I love it. Well, this has been It's Your Life, Own It. And you've heard everything. Trust your instincts. You are the CEO of your life. It's time to make executive decisions. We love you this time. Take care. We are gone. Have a blessed rest of the week. We're out.